Welcome in. We are live Sunday night Roundtable. This is, of course, the Tuesday edition. We're going to let some people come on in. We are talking about the Titans win over the Buffalo Bills. Final score, Tennessee 42, Buffalo 16. Just a whopping big performance from this Titans, a statement on national television in prime time, and we are going to talk about it tonight. Sunday Night Roundtable Tuesday edition is presented by Broadway Sports Media. Be sure to check out BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Going to have tons of recaps. Mike will have his winners and losers. Rob will have his 3 up, 3 down. We'll have recaps throughout the week, film breakdown, and of course get into previews for next week's game against the Houston Texans. But for now, we are focused on the Buffalo Bills. Going to let some more people filter in here. I'm joined tonight by Johnathan Boren at JB on Broad. And, of course, Mike Herndon, a.k.a. Mike Miracles. Fellas, how are you doing tonight? I'll turn it to you, Mike, first. Instant reaction to this big win.
Statement win, first of all. I mean, I don't think anyone – there was a lot of reasons to have some doubt, right? No practice in 2 weeks, basically. A bunch of key guys out. And the Titans come out and paced what a lot of people were starting to consider one of the top 2 or 3 teams in the AFC. On national TV. So, I mean, a shocking performance in a great way from the Titans. I think the Bills did help them out quite a bit. But, I mean, you want to talk about a team that looked crisp after a long layoff and looked like, I mean, they came out and they looked like they were tired of hearing all the crap about, them in the media for the last 2 weeks and were ready to make a statement, and they did.
Certainly. Johnathan.
Yeah, so I think, you mentioned it there. It's a statement win. At the same time, I think a lot of people coming into this game would have taken something like a close loss under the circumstances. Everybody said, hey, they made it competitive. But to come out and not only win, but like if you want analysis on the game, it's just a W. That's it. Because that's just there's no one play here or there, and you can say that the Bills made some mistakes. They did make some mistakes, but there were plenty of plays that the Titans still left on the field as well. There are no excuses for a 42-16 win. Sorry.
Right, and let's talk about that because the Titans had won their previous 3 games by game-winning field goals. Point differential was one of the lowest for a winning team you can have in 3 games, and they come out and just plaster the Bills, right that point differential. I think that perhaps the talk that we've heard in the national media about the Titans being like a soft undefeated or a soft 3-0, I've heard that a few times, may subside a little bit after this performance on national television. Josh Allen has been getting so much hype for his performance this year, and rightfully so. He's played great, but he was not great tonight. I'm curious if you guys think the Titans did anything specifically. Turn it to you first, Coach. What do you think the Titans may have been doing on defense to take away Allen's effectiveness?
So for the first 4 weeks, you heard all this talk about Brian Daboll coming in here and running all of these great man beaters, running all these great schemes to scheme his guys open, which not having Brown out there definitely affects it, takes some speed off the field. But the Titans came in, and while they shifted to some more man coverage in the second half, they came out heavy with some zone coverage. And you always talk about, or Vrabel always talks about being multiple, both up front and on the back end. And you saw a lot of that. They wanted to make sure that Josh Allen could not trust his eyes. And you saw that a lot. He made some plays because we talked about on the halftime show, the rushers would get out of their lanes. And so they let him get out, and he's playing backyard football at that point. And he's just, he is a freak athlete. But they sat back and knew that Josh Allen is not going to be patient to just walk down the field, and he's going to take chances. And they didn't give him those opportunities by trying to go man to man on those receivers. And Daboll would have schemed against that. You saw it a little bit in the second half, but it was a really good job by Vrabel to put his guys in. Really, as depleted as they were, it was a scheme win. That's really what it was.
Right.
Absolutely.
And the Bills actually outgained the Titans 370 yards to 334 yards. But the big reason for that is because of how the Titans were playing. They, protecting those young cornerbacks, sitting them back in a lot of zone coverages to not give up the big play, get beat deep, and then being opportunistic. They had forced two turnovers there, but with Malcolm Butler getting 2 interceptions. Mike, the stats sheet doesn't always tell the whole story. With Butler's huge interception returns, there's just not as many yards for the offense to gain in those situations.
Exactly. I mean, the Titans, you'll take that every day, right? I mean, accumulating yards is not the goal of the game. It's to score points. So, The Titans were effective again in the red zone. That's been a hallmark of them. They got away from that a little bit in Minnesota. They had some kind of uncharacteristic struggles in the red zone up there. They got right back to business in this game, and they converted in the red zone. The defense gave them 3 short fields. The special teams gave them another short field with the Khalif Raymond long return. They took advantage of all of those. So it was effective, complementary football, and the Titans. I think one of the big things that stands out about this 4-0 start, the Titans have turned the ball over 1 time in 4 games, and they have turned over their opponent now 9 times. So anytime you're a +8 in the turnover battle over a course of 4 games, you're going to have a good time. So that's one thing the Titans are killing it on. There's some things that could be cleaned up, the third down defense, all that stuff. But 42-16 win against an AFC contender, you've got to be thrilled. I mean, especially given the circumstances, it's just wild. You had a wide receiver core of A.J. Brown, Khalif Raymond, Nick Westbrook-Ikhine, and Cody Hollister, and you go out and you throw up 42. Unbelievable performance.
They all made catches.
Yeah. Hey, and what everybody was talking about in the offseason, Khalif Raymond actually became the number 2 wide receiver. I'm sure this is exactly how everybody drew it up.
Yeah,
right.
And Khalif Raymond finished with 2 catches for 26 yards. Tannehill only threw for 195 yards, but was 21 of 28 with 3 touchdowns, added another touchdown on the ground. He was very efficient. He was very accurate with the ball. Saw him fit it into a few tight windows there, especially on some big third downs. Overall thoughts on Tannehill's performance, Mike?
Yeah, Tannehill continues to this is what he's been the entire time that he's been here. We're now at 17 starts. If you're still waiting on the big regression, I think you're going to be waiting for forever. Because he's doing what the offense asks him to do, and he does it at a very high level. He's got the arm strength, he's got the accuracy, he's got the running ability. He showed it all tonight. I mean, if you were to tell me which guy looked like an MVP quarterback tonight, it was absolutely Ryan Tannehill. I mean, he played an excellent football game. You can't ask any better from a quarterback with limited weapons than what he gave you tonight.
Yeah, you look at the thing about Josh Allen, and Josh Allen does make some wow plays, but I couldn't help think he had the throw to the back of the end zone to Yeldon where he had all the time in the world and puts it on a laser back to him. And it really felt like that meme that you'll see, Josh Allen rolls right, this long drawn out play where he throws this great pass and then they lose by 26 points. But that's all everybody's talking about is the fact that, yeah, he's got a hose for an arm. Great. They lost by 26. And a lot of it was because the guy did not play a very good game. Yeah, he had some wow plays. He had a good throw to the sideline, but at the same time, this is kind of the reason that we exist as a company is because all these national guys talking of, even in a 26-point win, most of the talk was about Josh Allen.
Right. And another thing, when you look at this game, the Titans there, we talk about the dominant win. You also had Kevin Byard drop an interception. You had at the very end of the game, Jadeveon Clowney drop an interception. And the Bills on third down converted, I think, 13 of 17. Yeah, 13 of 17 tries on third down, which is an insane number for a team that only scores 16 points at the end of the day. But again, that's just the credit to the way the Titans defense is playing. We'll get Mike back on here in a second. But here he comes. Johnathan, what were your thoughts on the defense allowing 13 of 17 and how that kind of scheme ended up helping them at the end of the day?
Well, I mean, the scheme helped them, but you still don't want to have those kind of third down conversions. It is definitely that bend don't break because he will make mistakes and turn the ball over. We talked about at halftime about how the law of averages would end up playing out, where you keep putting them in those positions and they're not going to be successful. Eventually, the dam will break. So in the end, like Mike said, the game's not about putting up yards, it's about putting up points, and they didn't miss field goals. They stopped them, whether it be turnovers or drop passes or whatnot. It's hard to sustain drives. So it's one of those that I think the scheme absolutely worked. And so, yeah, it's frustrating to watch at times, but credit where credit's due. They gave up 16 points under all these circumstances.
Right, and that raises my next question, which is, what do you think? I mean, do you think the time off helped this defense? Do you think just they're starting to play better because they're deeper into the season now? Mike, what are your thoughts on how the defense was able to turn it around after 2 straight games allowing 30-plus points?
So the biggest difference to me in this game was they were able to stop the run. They weren't bleeding those 7 to 15-yard runs that they were against Minnesota. And yes, the pass defense was okay. The turnovers obviously help a ton. But when you aren't just getting gashed on the ground, you are able to force them into those 3rd and long situations. You're not constantly in 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3, even though sometimes it seemed like it was better for them to be in those 3rd and short situations just because of the crazy conversions the Bills got. But I think the run defense looked a lot better. Now, the Bills don't run the ball well. They didn't run the ball well before this game, and 31st. I didn't expect them to run the ball well in this game. So
31st in
whether that is a fixed problem or not, I don't know, but it was good to see a performance that was more positive from that group.
And without Jeffrey Simmons in the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, having Daquan's back, but a lot of the issues that were there the previous weeks were still there. The linebacker play left something to be desired, but the Bills didn't challenge them. It was one of those things that, if you see that Jeffrey Simmons isn't going to be in there and coming into the week, you didn't know if Daquan Jones was going to be there. You want to run the ball on him. You see there's a huge gap up the middle with the way the linebackers have been playing, but that's not what the Bills have been doing. The Bills had fewer rush attempts with one more game on the books than the Titans did coming into this game. So it's one of those that I kind of put some of it, as great as Daboll has been, I wonder if he did not do a great job of attacking the opponent's weaknesses in this game. I would have tried to pound the ball the same way the Titans tried to wear them down. If I'm the Bills, I'm coming in and I'm trying to tire them out knowing that they're depleted. But they didn't do that and played right into what the Titans thought that they would do.
To be fair, the Titans are also depleted in the secondary, so the defense is dealing with a lot of injuries and stuff. But let's shift our focus to the other side of the ball now and talk about the offense, which obviously put up 42 points. We touched on it earlier, helped a lot field position-wise by those turnovers, by the special teams play. But Derrick Henry was, he played well at the end of the game, but the final box score numbers look pretty bad. 19 carries for only 57 yards, 3.0 yards per carry. He did have 2 touchdowns, of course. The Bills come into this game, they weren't good at running the ball. They also weren't very good at stopping the run. What do you make of Derrick Henry's game here? Is this a case of the other team's just going to focus so hard on Derrick Henry and in my opinion, you take the trade-off? Johnathan, do you take that trade-off if it means Tannehill's been able to complete those passes over the middle?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, because like we said, the name of the game is scoring points. It's not about putting up fantasy scores. So, although 2 touchdowns helps in the fantasy score as well. But it's one of those that they're still stacking the box. Every team is coming in here to stop Henry. And until Tannehill has that talked about regression, you'll take it. Or teams are going to have to adjust back when they have A.J. Brown on the outside and Corey Davis and Humphreys comes back. And you have the Batsons and the Khalif Raymonds that can just be those deep threats. That's a hard offense to stop. Again, there was all this talk about all the weapons that the Bills had coming into this game, but that's not even talking about Jonnu Smith, who has. It's easy to forget about him only because he's been so consistent so far this year. And so, you take that. The Henry regression, there's definitely a noticeable tick up in speed whenever Darrington Evans is in there. So there is a difference in burst. Now he can't stay on the field, but Henry's going to get his, or Tannehill will be in the MVP conversation.
Right, and I want to talk about something the Titans were doing in this game that I haven't seen a whole lot of over the years, and I don't know if it's because they haven't had the wide receivers to do it or if it's an offensive coordinator thing, but A.J. Brown in this game led the Titans in receiving in catches and yards. He had 1 receiving touchdown, 7 catches for 82 yards, and you kept hearing the broadcasters talk about it. Single coverage against Josh Norman, the Titans were going after the single coverage with their star receiver. And I mean, what a refreshing feeling to watch the game, watching an offense and know that if a team puts your guys in single coverage. Mike, what'd you think of A.J. Brown coming off the injury in this game?
Yeah, I thought Brown was noticeably just more explosive off the line, in and out of his breaks, everything than he was in Denver. I think the few weeks of rest did him a lot of good as far as coming back from that bone bruise in his knee. He looked like the guy that he was last year, basically. And he abused Norman. Norman was grabbing and holding and doing everything he could to just basically hold on to A.J. Brown for most of that game. And I think that's extremely encouraging and kind of like we talked about when the cavalry does come back with Humphreys and Davis. And then you've got Brown clicking. I mean, that's a formidable group of weapons for the Titans, and I think a lot of people sleep on that group in particular nationwide.
Yeah, to give just a little kudos to, again, Arthur Smith, because I saw it in chat here from YouTube about Khalif popped off, and Khalif had some nice catches there. But one of the plays that came up, they had a 3rd and 20, and the Bills actually knew that they had single coverage, so shaded the safety to the outside. I think they were in cover 2 there, and Art Smith draws up a great play as probably an option route for Khalif Raymond out of the slot, but just runs a quick post, and you get the ball in his hands with no safety up the middle. And those 2 linebackers split to go to those hook curls outside. And it's a foot race, and Khalif Raymond's winning that most of the time. So that's great to play that chess match. That yes, if he is actually single covered, you're going to AJ Brown. But if you actually give him any other help, they are willing to take advantage of it, even if it's a guy like Khalif Raymond and not Corey Davis out there.
And while we're on Smith, let me just give him huge props for that drive before the half. 4-minute drive out of the shadow of their own goal line. They start off running the ball. Your primary objective right there is do not give the Bills the ball back with a bunch of time left around midfield, right? You do not want – you're up 14-10. You don't want to give them a chance to answer right before the half. So he runs, takes some time off the clock, accumulates some first downs, gets out to midfield. Then they go into the hurry up, and they end up capping it off, of course, with the touchdown. Absolutely massive drive, and I felt like that was really the drive of the game. That was what took this from close back and forth battle to the Titans have a chance to put their foot on their neck and finish this thing. And Arthur Smith dialed up and I think it was like a 90-yard drive. And it left the Bills with, I think, 7 seconds left. So you cannot have a more perfect drive to end a half. They did the old Patriots thing where you double up into the half, beginning of the half. Just beautiful football, beautiful coaching right there in that series from Smith.
It's the first time they've been able to actually double up this entire season. This is the first time they actually got the ball coming out at the second half. So it is nice to see them actually take advantage of that.
Well, they did end up punting. We'll talk about that second half in 1 second. Just want to comment, Mike, that drive was 12 plays, 90 yards, and took off just 2 minutes and 39 seconds of clock and left the Bills with, 16 seconds to go in the half. So then coming out of the second half, I want to talk about, this was probably, in my opinion, the biggest turning point of this game was the Titans had a nice drive, a 5-minute drive. They took off some clock and then punted and put the Bills, pinned them back in deep at in their own territory, the 3-yard line. I think Chris Milton did a nice job downing the punt, who had a phenomenal game on special teams, by the way.
Him and Zubin are both.
Yeah, seriously. And that's an area, by the way, where the Tennessee gained an edge in this game that I think is one of those secret advantages. But hang on, sorry, let me stay on topic. Bills here, 14-play drive, 64 yards, take up 6 minutes and 45 seconds of clock, and get all the way down deep into Tennessee territory at the Titans' 33-yard line with good down and distance, 2nd and 4, ahead of the chains, and Josh Allen throws that second interception to Malcolm Butler. It was 21-10 at that point in the game, and the Bills had some momentum there. Titans looked like they couldn't get a stop, and that changed the whole complexion of the game. Malcolm Butler returns at 68 yards. Titans score 3 plays later. Just like that, it's 28-10, and suddenly feels a lot more insurmountable for the Bills. I know, like you said earlier when we first started, a 42-16 game isn't about one play, but I do think that in terms of huge turning points, that's the one. Any thoughts on that, Jonathan?
Yeah, I mean, you can say what you want about some of the other plays where, I mean, the first interception that Malcolm Butler had, maybe the receiver should have at least knocked it down, not popped it up. There were some freak plays, but that was just perfect scheming by Malcolm Butler that Josh Allen didn't see him. I don't know if he didn't see him because he was kind of hidden behind his own receiver in that cover 2. So that cover 2 sink, we talk about don't cover grass. So that's picture perfect to how you're going to sink. If there's nobody attacking the flat, sink into it. He runs right into that passing lane. And then the return, people thought he was injured, but I think he was just exhausted by the end of it. So it was nice to see for a guy that's been fairly maligned over the last few weeks for him to be able to step up there. And they needed somebody. Chris Jackson had a couple of big plays, but Malcolm Butler, it was nice to see him come out. Maybe you're seeing the turning point for him like he had the first year he was here when he went after the second 8 games of that season where he was pretty much a shutdown guy. If they can do that and get a Dory back, they're in great shape.
Yeah, and Butler's always been a guy who's good at returning touchdowns. I think he had one against the Browns for a touchdown. He definitely had one against Washington
Yep.
one year.
Browns was the other one.
He's a guy that he has a nose for the end zone when he gets his hands on the football. Let's talk about the coaching in this game, because a huge aspect was the penalties and the penalty yardage. And Buffalo when you look at the end of it, it was really actually pretty even. 56 penalty yards for Buffalo, 46 for Tennessee. Bills committed 10 penalties. Titans only committed 6. We just had a comment in the chat a second ago about the Bills defense getting got with the hard count, which Tannehill did a nice job with. But more than that is the Bills committed some penalties in big moments that kept Titans drives alive and kept the team going. And they mentioned on the broadcast the Titans have been great since Mike Vrabel took over, really, with the penalties. And Taylor Lewan has really tampered down on his penalties. What do you guys think overall of that performance? Mike, I'll go to you first.
Yeah, I thought, the Titans certainly looked like the more prepared team. I mean, they weren't making mistakes. Their head was in the game. And that's despite, all the distractions and all the craziness going on. Really a testament to not only Vrabel and the coaching staff, but the players themselves. I think the broadcast guys, the commentators, did a nice job of talking about a text. There was a text chain that apparently, I guess, Ryan Tannehill had started, where he was basically holding other guys accountable for working out, getting out and running, making sure you're ready to go when we do get back in the building. That kind of leadership is huge. And I think we've heard countless examples of Tannehill taking this team kind of under his wing. And that's just another one. But that is the kind of leader that I think you can really build a football team around. And Vrabel wants this to be a player-led team. And I think what you're seeing is a player-led football team right now.
Yeah, and I want to bring up this comment that was just made in the chat. Shazam, looked like Vrabel was running the DBs. The Titans were down 2 coaches. Jonathan, thoughts on, as a former coach, what that must have been like for the Titans to come into this game down 2 assistant coaches? What are the kind of adjustments you have to make, people taking on roles? How do you think they handled that?
Yeah, luckily with them not having, Shane Bowen being back allows him to kind of focus elsewhere. I've had some concerns with Vrabel, them not having a defensive coordinator, if that was going to stretch him too thin on his game day duties. Well, for guys like that like to be involved in anything, in a situation like that, when there's a need explicitly in one spot, those guys tend to get extremely detail focused at one area. So it's one of those that I don't know exactly how they handled it, but they definitely came up with big plays right there. And they didn't have the blown coverage that you've seen over the last few weeks. It was keeping everything in front of them. They went back to basics from a DB standpoint, making the tackles. Yes, there were some missed ones there, but overall it looked nothing like the Justin Jefferson game where they missed a tackle every single time he got the ball. So it was back to fundamentals with them. And for anything you hear about Vrabel, he's a football coach. And what I mean by that is you're going to start with the basics. You're going to start with the blocking and tackling. And that's how he's always coached it since he's been here. Let him catch the ball, then go up and tackle him, make him drive the whole field. No free yards.
Yeah, and the Titans did a great job with that. Let's transition a little bit here and talk about where this puts the Titans in terms of the AFC picture and the NFL picture in general. With the Chiefs going down this weekend, the Ravens already have a loss. It's the Titans and the Steelers now atop the AFC as the undefeated teams, with a matchup looming in a couple of weeks. Titans can't look ahead, obviously, with a division rival coming in next week. But where do you think the Titans sit? Like, obviously, our Broadway Power Rankings are going to come out on Wednesday. Where do you guys have the Titans? Mike?
I'm going to have to bump them up a little bit. I mean, I think that we had them around 5 to start the season. They've kind of stepped down a couple pegs, just close wins, other teams being more impressive early on. But this is a signature win. This is as impressive as any win any team has put on the field this year. I mean, you can say that hands down as far as quality competition, a decisive victory in all phases. This is as good a game as any NFL team has played this year. And I think the Titans have to be in that top 4, top 3 area right now. I mean, that you've only got a few undefeated teams left. So, you've got an undefeated team that just put another undefeated team down like that. They deserve their respect.
I will say the Raiders' win over the Chiefs this past weekend was quite impressive as well. But, yeah, I agree. Jonathan, your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, you got to put them up right up there with some of the best teams in the AFC. I mean, you look at the record; it's still fairly early. I can't put them above the Chiefs. I'm sorry, I just can't. I can't. I wouldn't put the Raiders above the Chiefs, even though they just beat them. I think the best team in the league is the Chiefs on any given Sunday. Now, I do think the Chiefs are beatable, and the Titans are good enough to beat any team out there. They got to get still some things cleaned up. I think when we talk about matchups, a lot of times the Titans match up really well against the Bills this year. They match up really well against the Ravens. But going against the Chiefs, that's a different matchup, and some of the things that we have seen could be exposed pretty quickly against a team like that. So I don't know where they end up finishing. The biggest thing is you can't have a letdown game this week against Houston. That's a division game. This game feels great to all the fans and everything, but you can't go into Houston in a division game and drop a game like that. You have a chance to really just put your foot on the division's throat this weekend, and you got to take advantage of it.
The nice thing is the Titans have positioned themselves really well to control, I hate this phrase, but control their own destiny when it comes to the playoffs. Obviously, we're only 4 games into the season now, but just looking ahead, 4-0 is a great place to have, a little bit of margin for error when you play a team like the Steelers coming up. You got the Ravens, the Browns look really good, especially in the last 2 weeks with big impressive wins themselves. So my next question about where the Titans stand is, how many games do you think they'll be underdogs in? Yeah, go ahead.
Hold on. I said that they have a chance to put their foot on the throat of the division. I need to put some respect out there, and it's really they have the chance to Derrick Henry stiff arm the division into the so.
Oh my goodness!
Yeah. I just need to put that out there.
Can we react? I know you talked about it at halftime, but the stiff arm that Derrick Henry put on Josh Norman, the memes are going crazy. If you haven't made one yet, I think you may have missed it, but people are still going crazy about it. So that's going to be on highlight reels for the rest of time.
Nobody's going to remember that play didn't count because it counted in Josh Norman's mind.
Oh, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I've never seen anyone throw another football player like that in the game while holding the ball. I mean, he threw him through the air. I tweeted out a gif of a salmon swimming upstream. I mean, Norman's like doing this number and it's unbelievable.
Khalil Mack flipped over the rookie offensive lineman for the Bucs on Thursday Night Football, and that was pretty impressive. But this was like, I know Josh Norman's a smaller guy, but this was like double that. He threw him through the air while running with the football. I said years ago when Derrick Henry was, I think, his second year in the league, that he had the most lethal stiff arm in the NFL, and I think that continues to be true. And I don't know if anyone will ever surpass. I don't think he can surpass what he did on that play there. Too bad it didn't count, but yeah.
Yeah, we may have another Vontae Davis moment in the locker room where he just has lost his love for the game and has decided to retire. He's done.
Oh man, that was unbelievable. All right, let's shift our focus to the next game. We started talking about the Texans a little bit. The Texans looked really good, finally free of head coach GM Bill O'Brien in their win over the division rival Jaguars. Of course, the Jaguars now become the first team, I think, in NFL history to lose 3 straight games to winless teams. So big congrats to the Jags on their accomplishment there.
Duval!
We are proud of you guys. But the Texans, you mentioned this could be a letdown game for the Titans. I feel like it could be a similarly letdown game for the Texans, who are like going to be riding high off of this Bill O'Brien win without Bill O'Brien, that I feel there could be a little crash and burn now. A big division game on the schedule may keep the focus a little bit, but where do you think where do you think both teams are at mentality-wise going into this game, Mike?
Yeah, I think the new coach bounce usually only lasts 1 week. We'll see kind of how Houston comes out. Obviously they're in desperation mode. If they lose another game, early on the season, it would be a miracle for them to come back and get back involved in the playoff chase at this point already. But obviously going to 1-5 would be, just box it up and mail it in for the rest of the season. It's done. So I think you are going to see them throw the kitchen sink at the Titans. The Titans are the better team, though. Obviously coming off a short week of rest, but they just came out for a really long rest, and they actually got to rest some players late in this game. And you're going to have some more guys coming back off the COVID list. So, I think in theory, it should be a relatively fresh team for playing on 5 days rest. So, it's an important game, though. All these division games are so crucial, and the Colts are not – I know they dropped a game this week, but I don't think they're going to go away. They're going to be hovering right around 500 or a little above it all year, I'm pretty sure. So the Titans need to keep the foot on the gas, especially stacking these early AFC South wins at home.
Yeah, Jonathan, thoughts on the Texans?
Yeah, I think you're gonna have a similar game plan in the sense that I think Deshaun Watson wants to throw the ball downfield. Now they do have a ton of speed out there. It's one of those that they have 4 of the exact same receivers that are very fast in a straight line. They aren't going to be great on a lot of those underneath things. That's not what they want to do, and they don't have a great offensive line. So your defensive line has to be able to get after him, and you need to do a good job because as dangerous as Josh Allen is at making people miss, Deshaun Watson is a more dangerous runner and making big plays out of it. So I think they got to be really good and really disciplined in their pass rush lane. You're probably going to see linebacker spies all day on them. But I saw somebody in chat bring up, Fulton and Adoree coming back would be a major help against this team because of the speed. I think that they can still match up against them. You're going to see a lot of zone stuff against them, keep everything in front of you, similar to tonight. But if you have Adoree and have Fulton and have that speed back there, it really opens up your playbook from a defensive perspective.
We've seen the familiarity help the Titans in this matchup in the past, most notably in Mike Vrabel's first game against the Texans as the Titans head coach when they had the fake punt that Kevin Byard threw to Dane Cruikshank for a touchdown. There are a lot of guys that used to be on that Houston sideline or in that locker room, from Ben Jones, obviously Mike Vrabel, Anthony Midget, Pat O'Hara, Shane Bowen, Jonathan Joseph, Jadeveon Clowney. Did I leave anyone out?
I'm sure there's somebody in there.
So this is
Deontay Foreman, practice squad bud.
Oh yeah. I honestly forgot that happened. Yeah. Yeah, so hopefully, that familiarity gives the Titans the edge again, but it kind of is a double-edged sword that could go both ways. Do you think that Clowney, though, out of all the people with the familiarity here, might be a little amped up to go against Texans? It kind of sucks that they fired Bill O'Brien before Clowney got to play against him from Clowney's perspective, but thoughts on Clowney going against this team?
My guess is he probably had his major grudge against B.O.B. So, like you said, him being fired maybe takes a little bit of the wind out of the sails, but he's going to still be playing against guys that he played with or went against. And anytime you're playing against your old team, I feel like there's that extra edge of, I want to show these guys how much they miss me. And a guy like Clowney, he didn't get to play, obviously, the Texans last year with Seattle. So this is his first chance to go against the team that drafted him and then ultimately shipped him out of town. So I do think you'll see a little extra fire out of him this weekend.
Yeah, here's the thing about Clowney. This is a little bit of a tangent. There's this idea because he hasn't gotten sacks yet that he's been a disappointment. The dude is very much impacting the games. Yes, he is not putting the quarterback on the ground, but I can guarantee you, had Jeffrey Simmons been in there tonight, there would have been at least 2-3 sacks on the game because he's doing a great job of getting around the corner, and he gets double teamed a ton that he continues to fight through it. Now he is getting winded, and we've talked about the snap counts for the outside linebacker. Somebody just mentioned Roberson. I don't know why Roberson's not playing, even just to be a body to go out there, because the outside linebackers are going to die by midseason right now. They've got to be able to get those snap counts and keep them fresh. That's probably my biggest complaint, is that they didn't do that. I don't know what they're thinking by continuing to only roll out 3 outside linebackers. But yeah, Clowney, he'll be amped, but he hasn't been bad. He's been good. That's the perception out there, is that he's not. Yeah, that drop pick was tragic. That would have sent everything through the roof.
That's what Clowney does, though, when he is getting double teamed or when he isn't getting to the quarterback. We saw him, not only did he have that dropped pick, but he knocked down another pass on brought up a third down. Like, that's as good as getting, a tackle at the line of scrimmage or whatever for a defensive end, and add to the pass breakup column. So he's definitely affecting the game. And even if he wasn't quote unquote affecting the game, from what you just said, the standpoint of having bodies, like, who on earth, he signed in the last hour before the season started who on earth would the Titans be rolling at outside linebacker if Clowney wasn't on this team? So not only has he been impactful, he is absolutely necessary. And by not getting sacks, he's just making himself cheaper because he's not getting any closer to his incentives in his contract, right?
Yeah. I mean, by the way, not having Simmons, you saw a ton of plays tonight where Clowney and even Landry bounced inside to play that 3 technique to give them some snaps in there, knowing that they had a major gap there at that 3 technique spot.
And Landry was also being used as the spy, the quarterback spy on Allen in this game. He actually missed a tackle on one play when he was in that spiral. Do you think we see a little bit of that from him against Watson next week, Johnathan?
I would expect, if it were me, I'm going to try and put Jay on in that position. I think he brings a little more athleticism to that spot to spy against Watson because Watson is a more athletic, explosive runner. The Texans don't have a major threat at tight end that you need to have Jayon Brown to go match up against. So I think that gives you some options. But and they try to stay multiple with it. They do use Landry in a ton of spots, whether it's dropping into coverage, spying, moving him, even inside. Inside was more of, I haven't seen that a ton until this game, them moving him inside. Now, was that a need or is that another tool in his arsenal? We'll have to see.
Right. Mike, let's get ready to wrap this thing up here. Some closing thoughts from you on this performance from the Titans as we head out into the week.
Yeah, so obviously fun game. Just super in the weeds, but I just have to say it. Jeremy McNichols played a man's game in blitz pickup today. Absolutely fantastic. The Titans did a great job pass protecting in general, which they've been phenomenal all year in that. Even when Lawan went out of the game, Sombrero has been playing pretty well, honestly. But Jeremy McNichols made a couple major league blitz pickups, and that goes unnoticed a lot of times, but those are huge plays that kept them in the fight for that play that could have been blown up for a huge loss or a turnover or something terrible happening if he doesn't make those. So Jeremy McNichols, obviously you'd like to see him get out of bounds on that run there at the last. I know it sounded like Vrabel got into him a little bit about that. But besides that, fantastic game for Jeremy McNichols. Kind of an unsung guy in this whole scheme of things. But hey, 40-16 win. You can't be more happy if you're a Titans fan coming off this.
Yeah, I kind of build on that, talking about unsung heroes. Cody Hollister, he had some key blocks or whatnot, but he had a third down catch as he was falling down. And that was such a big first down because he got that clock running. They were in that position that if they kicked it back to the Bills were only down 2 scores at the time. So on third down, if he doesn't make that catch, they're punting back to him. And then things start to get a little tighter around there because the Bills drive, you're down to 1 score, and they're right back in that game. So for him to pick up that, it's textbook what Vrabel talked about this week, that you have a lot of guys on the practice squad that they're going to have to step up and make plays. And all those guys that he kind of talked about showed up at some point in this game. Whether it was Hollister, Westbrook had a catch. So it's just one of those that textbook from what they talk about that is next man up.
Yeah, I really think that everybody who had a role to play tonight stepped up and played well in that role. And the Titans, I mean, this, like I said at the top, this is a statement win. Put the NFL on notice. The Titans are a top 5 team in the league. I think that everyone would probably agree after watching this game. Ryan Tannehill says, I am not a fluke. Derrick Henry says, even though I only average 3.0 yards per carry, I'll put the team on my back and run for a pair of touchdowns. That's going to do it for us tonight on Sunday Night Roundtable. Unless you guys have any last thoughts, unless we get any last comments in to read off here, thanks to everyone for tuning in. Remember, you can check out BroadwaySportsMedia.com. That is our website. We are presented by Broadway Sports Media, partnered with 440 Sports, our podcasting partner. We're very excited to be partnered with them. And of course, we are also partnered with the Mike Heimerdinger Foundation. If you head to the Broadway Sports website, you can sign up for a premium membership. We have a very special membership called the Heimerdinger Foundation Monthly All Access Pass, which is the same as the regular All Access Pass, except that 25% of your proceeds are donated to the Mike Heimerdinger Fund. So thanks for that, signing up for that. We've had some of those memberships rolling in and really appreciate and are proud that we're able to help that charity. So once again, check out BroadwaySportsMedia.com. Follow us on Twitter at BroadwayTN and find us on Facebook and Instagram. Josh, who you guys know as @TitansTapes, doing a great job on Instagram. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook. Follow Johnathan at JB on Broad. Mike at Mike Miracles. I am at Titans Film Room. Thank you guys for tuning in. Sunday Night Roundtable, Tuesday edition. We will be back next week to recap the Titans-Texans game, just like we do every week. Stay tuned till then. Tighten up, everyone.